morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Jasmina, you can log off. This is a finance class. Okay, so you are 12 of us. We will start. Today is going to be the last class as far as income from salary is concerned. Okay, in my next class, we have made up an arrangement wherein problems can be solved on paper, and I will be able to solve the problems, and you can just see that particular problems and accordingly solve it. All problems that I'm going to solve are already available in the slides that I have posted. And today, since I'll be completing the theoretical concept, you will be getting slides of all the modules also. So this is from my side today. Okay, so we'll start with our discussion as to the last part that is concerned, as I'm talking to you about an important concept of valuation of perquisites, right? Now, as already been discussed, perquisites are nothing but they are extra benefits been given to the employees for their services rendered. Now, what are the extra benefits that are given is what we need to understand. Okay, so first important benefit that is given as a perquisite is definitely a rent-free, unfurnished accommodation, right? People who get transferred and who are staying in at a separate location, usually their employer gives them a house to live. Now there are two types of residential accommodations. In fact, three. Okay. Now what are those three? Is I'll just let you know. First thing is, suppose I'm transferred from Belgaum. I'm transferred to a location called Pune in Maharashtra. Now when I get transferred from this particular location to the other location, naturally I will have to move my family along with the the furniture and other things that I have. It might so happen that my employer may say that I will provide you a house. Okay, on I'll provide you a house. The house is owned by me, but I will provide you this particular house. Only condition is it is unfurnished house. So how do we need to take into consideration if a employer gives an unfurnished accommodation to me? How will the valuation be done? Point number one. Next, if it is a furnished house, how will the valuation be done? Third, if there is no accommodation available, but the employer says you can stay in the hotel, right? You can stay in the hotel, you can stay in a hostel, or you can stay in a studio apartment. How will the valuation be done? These are the concepts that we have to understand as far as accommodation is facilities being given. Clear? Rashmi, if you can just mute your mic, there is a disturbance from your end. Right. So we'll first talk about how do we need to value the an unfurnished rent-free accommodation. Remember, three words. The property is owned by the employer. It is been given to the employee. The employee is not paying any rent. That's the reason it's called rent-free. Next word is unfurnished. Okay, it is an unfurnished accommodation. That means there is no furniture inside. Okay, so in such case, how will the valuation be done is what we have to understand. So this slide basically talks about that. So first thing is, if such an accommodation is given to you, the first classification is, are you a government employee or are you a private employee, is the first type of classification that we have to understand. If you are a government employee, right, if you are a government employee, then how will the valuation done is been mentioned in the last part of this particular slide, that is this part. What does it say? It says for government employees, okay, for government employees, license fee means the rent that is been determined by the government. License is nothing but the rent. Okay, so license fee determined by the government. Okay, that is actually rent paid by the employer. To this, you have to add 10% cost of furniture or higher charges if furniture is if furnished furnishing is provided. If no furnishing is provided, then whatever is the actual rent paid, okay, that has to be taken into consideration. Now, it might be a bit difficult for you to understand how do you relate this, but once we come to the problem part of it, you'll be able to understand how to relate all these things one by one. Clear? Just as of now, understand that if you are a government employee, okay, the government has a certain fee that has been determined, okay, and you pay a certain amount of rent to the employer. Okay, say for example, suppose I'm staying in a locality which is close by KLE Engineering College. The standard rate here, the standard rate or the standard rent that is applicable for a 2 BHK house is, let us say, around 7,000 rupees. Okay, so this is a standard rent that becomes a license fee determined by the government. So it's a standard rent. But actual, how much am I paying? Maybe I am paying only 5,000 because my employer said that if you want to live in this particular house, the rent that you have to pay is only 5,000 rupees. So in this case, what is the difference amount? 7,000 is the standard rent which is determined by the government authorities, and actually how much I am paying? I am paying just 5,000 rupees. So how much am I saving? I am saving 2,000 rupees, right? So this is how the calculation actually works. That's what I said. When I come to the problem part of it, we'll go into the details of how do we take the benefit of rent-free accommodation, rent-free unfurnished accommodation. Next point is, if you are a private employee, that means you are working in a private company, and your employer has provided you a rent-free unfurnished accommodation, then there are certain conditions that you have to take into consideration. Okay, now what are those things you have to take into consideration is what is mentioned on your slide. First thing, it says if you are living in an area or if you are living in a city wherein the population of that particular city is about 25 lakhs as per 2011 census. I repeat, if you are a private employee and if your employer is providing a rent-free unfurnished house to you, in such case, how do we determine the valuation of this particular benefit that has been given to you? So in such case, the first criteria is check the population of that particular area or that particular city according to 2011 census. If the population of that particular area is about 25 lakhs, then valuation is going to be 15% of your salary is to be considered as an income for you. I repeat, 15% of your salary is to be considered as an income for you. Okay. When is this applicable? If the property is owned by the employer. That means my employer is owning that particular house. In such case, I am eligible for 15% of my salary. Next, if I am living in a city wherein the population is above 10 lakhs and less than 25 lakhs as per 2011 census, then only 10% of my salary has to be considered my income. And if the population is less than 10 lakhs, only 7.5% of my salary has to be considered for rent-free valuation, rent-free accommodation and its perquisite valuation. All these three conditions are applicable only and only if the property is owned by the employer. On the other hand, if the property is not owned by the employer, it is been hired, it is been leased, okay, in such case, it is going to be 15% of salary or rent paid, whichever is lesser. So this condition has to be taken into consideration. When is this picture going to arise? This picture is going to arise only when the property that is owned, the property which is given to you by your employer is not owned by the employer, but it is on lease basis. In such case, 15% bracket gets directly applicable irrespective of what is the population of a particular city. On the other hand, apart from this, if the employer is giving a furniture to you, then you have to add 10% cost of
Excuse me,
furniture.
sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you repeat, please? I got the connection.
Which point are you not able to
Sir,
get?
if the employee doesn't own the property.
Okay. See, it is not possible for every company to own properties in every cities that it operates. It is not possible. So in such case, what does company do? They take some properties on lease. Generally, they take a building which has around 20-25 flats. They take the entire building on lease. And whatever building is taken on lease, this property is not owned by the employer now. It is on lease, or you can say it is on hire basis. In such cases, okay, irrespective of where do you live, in which city do you live, and what is the population, that is immaterial. 15% of your salary or rent paid, whichever is lesser, is considered as a valuation for that particular property. Okay, I'll come to the problems. So once we come to the problem, only then things will be able to, you'll be able to understand the things about it. Okay, the only thing is you have to take into consideration, if furniture is provided, in such case 10% cost of furniture has to be added back, because the furniture is being provided to the employee by the employer. On the other hand, if the furniture is leased, or if the furniture is also hired by the employer and then given to the employee, in such case you have to take actual hire charges. Okay, if the furniture is hired, you have to take the actual hire charges. Okay, and you have to subtract a certain amount recovered from the employee. Okay, so again, when we come to the problem, we will understand things in a much better way. Usually in your final exam you get problems on this particular area, valuation of rent free accommodation, because this is where most of the students generally tend to go wrong, and that is the reason we have a situation wherein mostly the problems will be concentrated on these two brackets. This is where the problems will be concentrated. Anyways, once we come there, we'll go through it. Any doubts in this? See, valuation of rent-free accommodation, you have to take into consideration two things. Is he a government employee or is he a private employee? If he is a government employee, then whatever rate that has been determined by the government, that has to be taken into consideration, and whatever rent is paid by the employer, that has to be taken into consideration. Okay, this is for unfurnished house. If it is a furnished house, straight away add 10% to it. Straight away add 10% of the cost of furniture or higher charges. Okay, if the accommodation is, if it is a furnished accommodation. If you are a private employee, okay, then you have to look for these conditions, and the conditions are applicable only and only when the property is owned by the employer. If the property is not owned by the employer, then these conditions will not be applicable. Directly, if the property is hired or if the property is leased by the employer, then straight away 15% of the salary or actual rent paid by the employer, whichever is lesser, has to be considered. The same goes on for cost of furniture and the amount that is going to be recovered. Clear?
Sir, if the
Yes,
country
sir.
like,
Yes.
sir, if the country like population is not given, and even the lease or it's owned by the employee is not given, so then how much percent we should take of the salary?
See, generally, uh, if the population of the city is not given, the name of the city is generally given.
Okay.
Okay, generally the name of the city is given, and any normal city that you look, okay, will have a population of at least 25 lakhs. And they will
Yes,
give
sir.
you the name of the cities which are well-known cities.
So like metro cities and all.
Metro cities can be given, or for that matter, example. I'm just giving an example. Let us take a place called Indore in Madhya Pradesh, or take a place
Okay.
called Udaipur in Rajasthan, or take a place called Ludhiana in Punjab. Right? These are big
Yes, sir.
cities in those particular states. The population of those particular cities is not only 25 lakhs, it is more than 50 lakhs. So in that particular case, you have to take the top bracket.
Yes, sir.
The problem arises only when the population is not given. On the other hand, things might be given something like this. It's a rural destination. They may give you things like, it's a rural destination. So if it's a rural destination, naturally the population will be less than 10 lakhs.
Yes, sir.
When do you say rural? When the population is below a certain limit, only then you say it's a rural area, right? So if the word
Yes, sir.
rural comes into picture, naturally the last bracket comes into calculation.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Getting it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, any other doubts? And please understand, these values are as of 2011 population census. Okay. This is as of 2011 population census. Okay. Next one. I think we discussed this yesterday, but still I'll just go once into it. This is as far as valuation of a motor car is concerned. Okay. So if the motor car is owned by the employer and running and maintenance cost is met by the employer, then what are the things that have to be taken into consideration? If motor car is owned by the employer and running and maintenance cost is borne by the employee, then what has to be taken into consideration? If car is owned by the employee and running and maintenance cost is reimbursed by the employer, what has to be taken into consideration? All these things are clearly mentioned here. Okay, so we'll just go through this quickly. We are more concerned about part A. We are more concerned about this part. Okay, so first is, if the car is used, please understand, wholly for official purpose, it is used only for official purpose, then the amount is not taxable. Car is owned by the employer and running and maintenance cost is met by the employer. The car is exclusively used only for official purpose, then it will not be taxable in the hands of the employee. But on the other hand, if the car is owned by the employer, running and maintenance cost is met by the employer, it is used for private purpose, that means it is used for personal use, then these conditions will be applicable. Please understand, this is completely official use, this is completely personal use. Okay, if it is for completely personal use, what are the things that we have to take into consideration? Actual expenditure incurred by the employer plus salary paid to the driver plus 10% of the cost of the car or higher charges. Okay, so less amount recovered from the employee. So generally these problems don't come. We are more concerned about this part. Okay, if the car is partly used for official purpose and partly used for private purpose, then we have to look for the engine cc. Okay, the one that we discussed yesterday. So if the engine cc is less than 1600 cc, if the engine cc is less than 1600 cc, then 1800 rupees per month, up to 1800 rupees is going to be exempted. Above 1800 rupees, it is going to be taxable. If the cc is more than 1600 cc, then in that case up to 2400 is exempted, more than 2400 is going to be taxable. If driver is provided, 900 rupees per month as salary has to be considered as far as driver salary is concerned. If driver is not provided, please ignore this point. Okay, and understand one thing, partly official and partly private purpose, this condition is applicable for all the three conditions. So irrespective of whatever who is owning the car, who is maintaining the car, where the car is being used, if it is used for official and partly purpose, the same condition gets applicable for each and every one. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Next, apart from these two perquisites, that is rent-free accommodation and motor car allowance or motor car perquisite, there are some other perquisites also. That is what we are going to see. Reimbursement of medical bills is fully taxable. Okay, though this is a falls under perquisite, it is fully taxable. Then gas, electricity, water supply by the employer is fully taxable. Okay, specified securities or sweat equities shares allotted are also taxable. Okay, education facility provided to children of the employee only if the value of such benefit does not exceed 1000 rupees. Okay, if the value is more than 1000 rupees, the balance amount is going to be taxable. Say for example, my employer gives me an extra 1500 rupees per month to take care of my child as far as education is concerned. In such case, only to the tune of 1000 rupees it is exempted from tax. The balance amount is going to be taxable. Clear? Next is facility of food and non-alcoholic beverages over and above the amount of 50 rupees per meal provided. That means if if the employer is giving you tiffin allowance, no, if the employer is giving you tiffin allowance, and let us say the tiffin allowance is, let us say, 70 rupees per day. In such case, you are receiving 70 rupees per day from your employer, but point number 5 says only to the tune of 50 rupees it has been permitted. That means you are receiving 70 rupees, up to 50 rupees of whatever money that you receive is going to be exempted. The balance amount is going to be taxable, which means 20 rupees is going to be taxable. Next, it says gifts, tokens, or vouchers. In lieu of such gifts, only if the value exceeds 5,000 during the year, it is going to be taxable. That means in a year, if you receive gifts worth more than 5,000 rupees, then the balance amount is going to be taxable. For example, let us say I receive a gift from my relative worth 8,000 rupees in that particular year. If I have to put the condition of point number 6 under perquisites, the calculation goes in this way. I receive gifts worth 8,000 rupees. I am exempted from paying tax up to the tune of 5,000 rupees. Balance amount, that is 3,000 rupees, I am liable to pay tax. Clear? This is how the valuation of gifts, tokens, vouchers comes into picture. Any doubts in this? One more thing I would like to clarify. As far as medical expenditure is concerned, medical allowance is concerned, or Mediclaim policy of an insurance is concerned, if you pay Mediclaim bill by cash, entire amount is going to be taxable. But if you pay the same medical claim amount bill by check, it is going to be exempted from tax. The whole purpose is reduce cash circulation in the system. The more cash you reduce in the system, the lesser the black money circulation takes place. And that is the reason why government says if you pay any medical reimbursement, or if you pay Mediclaim policy on behalf of an employee, if the employer pays Mediclaim policy on behalf of the employee, in such case, if he is paying by cash, the entire amount is going to be taxable. On the other hand, if he pays by check, then up to 20,000 rupees is going to be exempted. Beyond 20,000 rupees, it is going to be taxable. That is what the concept of Mediclaim policy works out. Is it clear? The last
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir.
the last slide for today. Once we are done with income from salaries under the head basic salaries, then we have allowances, then we have special allowances, next we have perquisites, and then we also have profit in lieu of salary. Once we are done with all this, we arrive at our gross salary. From this particular gross salary, and by the way, this is applicable only for salaries. Once we arrive at gross salary, we have to arrive at net salary. But before we arrive at net salary, we have to give deductions under section 16. Okay, and what are those deductions under section 16 is what we have to understand right now. There's something called as standard deductions. Okay, standard means it has been regulated by the government. Till last year, it was 40,000 rupees per year. This year, it has been revised to 50,000 rupees per year. In other words, suppose my income from salary works out at, let us say, 5 lakhs 50,000. My total salary for the year works at 5 lakh 50,000 rupees. In such case, logically speaking, I am supposed to pay tax on 5 lakh 50,000. But if I make use of section 16, the condition says that out of your gross salary, which is 5 lakh 50,000, you can claim a deduction of 50,000. That means 5 lakh 50,000 minus 50,000, that is my net income or my net salary is going to be only 50,000. I am supposed to pay tax only on 50,000. If this standard deduction was not applicable or was not available, in such case, I would have ended up paying tax on entire 5 lakh 50,000, but here I am paying tax only on 5 lakh rupees. So 5 lakh 50,000 rupees is a saving for me. Point number one. Second point is, the income tax authority says that whenever an employee works in a company, he works for the benefit of his family and for himself. So a certain amount of entertainment allowance should also be granted to that particular employee. Now, the condition for the condition to check the entertainment allowance is mentioned under the second point. There are three conditions, and the least of the three has to be taken into consideration. The first point says that Government has said that 5,000 rupees will be permitted for you as entertainment allowance. Point number one. Second, it says 1/5 of your salary. Please remember, it says 1/5 of your basic salary. It doesn't say salary. It says 1/5 of your basic salary. Okay, so please understand these words. So 1/5 of my basic salary has to be taken into consideration, and actual amount received has to be taken into consideration. I'll just give you an example. Let us suppose my employer gives me an entertainment allowance of 6,000 rupees, right? So how much is the actual entertainment allowance received by me? It is 6,000 rupees. The government has set a limit of 5,000 rupees, and my basic salary, okay, and my basic salary is, let us say, 25,000 rupees. What is 1/5 of 25,000 rupees? Or I'll make it simple.
500.
I'll make it more simple. My basic salary is 20,000 rupees. Basic salary 20,000 rupees. Okay, I'll just give here. Okay. I'm receiving 5,000 rupees. This is a 5,000 government limit. So this is a government limit. Okay. My basic salary is, let us say, 20,000 rupees. And actual entertainment allowance that I received from my employer is, let us say, 6,000 rupees. Can somebody tell me what will be the entertainment allowance permitted for me?
4,000.
How did you come to that?
4,000.
1/5 of basic salary. 1/5 of basic salary, sir.
1/5 of
So it
basic
is the
salary. How
lesser
much is
amount,
1/5 of basic
least.
salary? It works out at
4,000.
4,000. Okay. Now check which is, it says least of the following. Which is the least one? One is 5,000 rupees.
4,000.
Government limit that has been set. Second is 4,000 rupees, and next is 6,000 rupees. The least of the thing. That means 4,000 rupees is going to be exempted from tax. So how much have I received? I have received 6,000. How much is eligible for deduction? 4,000 rupees. How much is going to be taxable? 2,000 rupees.
2,000.
Getting it?
Yes, sir.
Any doubts in this, please?
No, sir.
Okay. And the last point under section 16 is professional tax. Okay. Yesterday, I think we saw one problem wherein professional tax was there. So the entire professional tax paid by the employer or employee, whatever it is, it gets qualified for deduction. Whoever pays it, the entire amount gets qualified for deduction. Clear? So with this, we come to the end of the theory as far as income from salary is concerned. Okay. I am sharing this particular slide to you immediately so that you have a copy of it. Okay. Now, apart from that, apart from whatever I'm going to discuss, whatever I've discussed, are you finding any problem in understanding this? Yesterday, some of you raised the doubts that problems are not easily comprehensible for you because solving it on the system, you are not able to get what is the question. All these problems are definitely there, no doubt about it. We have tried to develop a solution for that. In the next class, we have got a setup today, but unfortunately, it is not been supported by some or the other reason. But in the next class, all those things will be sorted out and we can physically solve the problems. In other words, there will be two camera setups. One camera will focus on my writing, wherein I'll be solving the problems, and one camera will focus on the PPT that I'm going to showcase. So on one hand, you have the
Yes, sir.
available to you, okay, and on the other hand, you have the available to you. So this problem will be
Yes, sir. Sir, that PF problem, please tell. No, sir. Please help me to find that. It's really confusing. That PF.
fine. I'll do that. No problem.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Yes.
excuse me, sir.
Yes. I think it's Monali.
One doubt in that.
Which
Yes,
one?
sir. So yesterday, some which you have solved in the class.
The first PF
Computation
problem,
from
sir.
income from salary.
One.
Yes, sir.
This one. This
Yes,
problem?
sir. So yesterday's two. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This problem, sir.
Yeah. Tell me.
So the solution, so that 40,000 deduction under 16.
Yeah, that's what. It has been changed. See, this is assessment year 1920. For you, assessment year is going to be 2021.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is the problem that you faced, right, Murali?
Yes, sir. So the down, so the solution one. So that 40,000, yeah.
This one, right?
Yes, sir.
How did it come?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Today, while explaining in the class, I did mention to you there is something called a standard deduction.
Yes, sir.
Last year, the amount was 40,000. This year, the rate has been revised to 50,000. So it's a standard
Yes,
which
sir.
has
Yes,
been
sir.
set by the government. Now, what is standard deduction? I'll explain to you. See, government is also concerned about its people who pay taxes. So what the government says, see, we know that you have got, look at the same problem. We know that you have got a salary of 10 lakh 20,000. Agreed. Okay. We know that you have
Yes,
got a
sir.
salary of 10 lakh 20,000. Okay. The government says, don't pay us tax on entire 10 lakhs 20,000. From our side, we will give a benefit of 40,000 rupees. That means you don't pay tax on entire 10 lakh 20,000. You reduce 40,000 rupees in this particular amount.
Okay.
Okay. So till last year it was 40,000. This year the rate has been changed to 50,000.
50,000.
If
Okay, sir.
10 lakh 20,000, Mrunali, if imagine if 10 lakh 20,000 is your annual salary or gross salary, 50,000 rupees is the allowance, or if not allowance, 50,000 is the exemption or a deduction which is been given to you by the government itself. So the government says
Yes.
out of 10 lakh 20,000, you subtract 50,000, right? So
Yes,
what will be
sir.
the amount? It will be 9 lakh
9 lakh
70,000
70,000.
now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it will be 9 lakh 70,000. So you pay us tax on 9 lakh 70,000. You need not pay us tax on 10 lakh 20,000. That is what the government says. So that is a
Okay, sir.
standard deduction. Standard means applicable for each and every one.
Each and every sum. Yes, sir.
Whether if your income is 20 lakh rupees or 30 lakh rupees per annum also, or whether your income is 5 lakh rupees per annum also, it is standard,
Yes, sir.
right? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
So that PF,
PF, I don't have. This problem is not here.
yes, sir, the slides it is there, sir. I think 56.
I've closed the slide. Okay, anyways, I'll just reopen it. In fact, I'm running out of.
Yes, sir.
We'll do one thing. I have my next class
Yes, sir.
that I'll
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Prayak sir is waiting now. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'll hand over the session to Prayak sir now for his next HR analytics class. And in my next class of, though it is investment management, I will solve that PF problem.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Address that problem and then we'll switch to investment management.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
And on your WhatsApp, I'm sending all the slides now. Please take a note of it.
Yes, sir.
So we have 27 people. Please don't leave it. There are 27 people. There are few people who are constantly remaining absent. Okay. I don't find Aryanth is constantly absent. Okay, please pass a note to him. It will be a problem for him. Okay. Same, I think Vishnu is here. Fine. So we'll stop the class. We'll continue in the next class.